All right, it's live. Welcome everybody to another Friday night interview. Haven't done this in a long time, so I think this is Friday night interview number 33. And with us, we have a gentleman named Elijah. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. How about you?
Yeah, I'm doing okay. Um, but for you, can you tell me about yourself? How old are you?
Well, I'm 23 years old and I live in the Midwest, and I think I suffer from SIBO.
You think you suffer from SIBOs? You don't believe, so you don't believe at this moment you have like TMAU or anything like that?
I used to think so, but then upon further research, I feel like it's more so SIBO related.
Hmm.
Mm.
Well, can you start from the? Yeah, let's start from the beginning. Like, when was the first time you had this weird condition? And since you said you had SIBO, did you within the first interaction or the first experience where people started making comments about you smelling bad? Did you have any type of symptoms? Showed any symptoms of SIBO? Uh,
So, so you want me to talk about the first experience I had, or just
Yeah, I wanted you to talk about your first experience, and the second question was, did you already have symptoms of like SIBO within your first
Um,
experience?
it's possible. It's possible. I just didn't realize it till this first experience. I'm 23 right now. I'm in my last year of college, and around my 10th grade year of high school, I had my first experience with reactions, and at that time, I had no idea about any of that stuff. And kind of like what I explained to you before, every every student has 8 class periods in a day, and I was on my 7th class period. That was my gym class, so it was my second last period of the day. And then after that, I had a science class at the very end of the day, and so I went to that science class. And no one showers after gym class. They just put on their clothes, go back to class or whatever. And so I ended up going back to class and sitting down, and I ended up hearing a little bit of comments behind me. There's a girl that was sitting behind me, two girls sitting behind me, talking about, oh, I didn't exactly hear what they were saying, but I could tell that there was some bickering. And so I was just kind of like, whatever. And then the bickering started to get a little bit louder. And I realized they were talking about a smell. And I'm like, oh, well, I hope it's not me. I didn't think too much of it. And so what happened was I ended up turning around because not the girl directly behind me, but the girl diagonal to me, which would be to the right of the girl behind me. She was kind of like, "Oh, you could just put your hair over your nose and it helps." And I'm like, "Okay, yeah, there's definitely something going on." And they were kind of looking at me, and I was looking at them. Then I turned back around. I was like, "Okay, this is getting weird. Hopefully, they don't make a big scene." And then lo and behold, I would say maybe like 5 minutes later after that, the girl directly behind me goes, "Oh my God, it stinks." And this is like 5 minutes into the class starting. And then everyone just kind of like pauses and looks in our direction. I'm like, "Oh my God, what do I do?" And so in that moment, from what I remember, I was just playing stupid. I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that when they notice reactions are going on. You have to act like you don't know what's going on, and it's just retarded. But I was just kind of looking at my planner or whatever, and then I kind of looked up at the teacher. She was just kind of staring. She didn't know what to do, and so everyone was just kind of just staring there for what felt like an eternity, which was probably like five seconds max. And then the class just resumed. But what that did was draw just a lot of attention to a smell going on in the class, and I could tell it was from me. I couldn't smell myself at that time, but that's something I can get into later, about being able to smell my own scent. But yeah, at that time, I just didn't really know what the hell happened. And then after class, since then, I just kind of been a little paranoid, like, "Ooh, I wonder if I smell now. Ooh, do I smell now? Do I smell now?" So it just kind of takes a toll on your mental, especially when you've been dealing with this kind of stuff for a while.
When you said this to me previously, it made me start to think back into my early high school years. And I recall that when I had to do like PE, I actually took it before I went into the ninth grade. So I did it over the summer to get the credit. And I sweat a lot.
Yeah,
And
same.
before going into like fully going to school, just doing it over the summer, I don't think I ever really got any reactions from people when I had to do like a summer PE credit. But
Mhm.
somewhere between ninth grade and 10th grade, I do recall having reactions. There was like this guy in back of me who always smelled of weed and stuff. And he would always like make, whenever I sat in front of him, he would like make like, he would react. He would be like, or some shit like that. And I'm like, what the
Yeah,
fuck is
yeah.
going on? And when you were talking to me, when you told me about this story before about how, the two girls in back of you would
Mhm.
make comments about you smelling bad, or at least within 10th grade, it made me remember when I was in 11th grade. I used to have like, I don't know if it was like anatomy class or something like that. I would hate going there because whenever I would have to stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance,
Mhm.
I know there would always be like some odor. They like the people in back of me would always react and make little comments and shit like that. So
Yeah.
I would always dread standing up, and especially I don't know when I get anxiety, I know I sweat more, and when I sweat more, I get even more reactions,
That's
and it always like bothered me just to like sit in front of anybody because I know every time someone's sitting back with me, they will always like sniffle or rub their nose or something like that, which made me always want to sit in the back of the class so nobody could sit in back of me. I don't know if you had a similar experience, but like that's the common things that would happen with me when I was in high school. I
Mhm.
know, like when you experienced that for the first time, like I guess throughout the remainder of your 10th grade year, did it get worse or was it just that one-off thing?
So here's the thing. Well, first I want to say this too. So like I said, I'm 23, pretty athletic. So I got like the body build of like a basketball player, pretty much.
Mm,
I'm tall, lanky, and African American or Caribbean if you want to be technical about it. But the thing is, after like my 10th grade year, like I did a lot of basketball, church basketball leagues and stuff like that. And I was getting reactions on the court, like if I was sweating a lot, because I do have hyperhidrosis. That's another thing I ended up finding out later throughout this journey. So I'm like you, I sweat very easily. It doesn't take much, especially if I get nervous. Like, I could just be sweating like crazy. But um, yeah, like I would get reactions, and then I just kind of like my junior year, I just stopped paying attention to it, and I'm sure I did still smell, but because I wasn't so focused on it, I feel like there wasn't much anxiety. It wasn't like the smell wasn't anxiety driven, and therefore it kind of lessened. And maybe that's part of why I feel like it kind of went away, or at least I didn't notice the reactions. But then I noticed like within the past couple years, I feel like it started to come back a little bit. But they're not as bad as the first year. Like my sophomore year, when I said that story I just said in the class, like those were some bad reactions. But I feel like they kind of went away my junior year, a little bit my senior year, and then they kind of came back my freshman year of college and to this day.
mm. So let me ask you this. Within your high school years, so you after like your not sophomore year, your junior year, you just stopped focusing on it. So were you able to still like build or maintain friends? Have you ever
Oh
tried to contact or talk to somebody in private about you smelling bad or something like that?
well, N I've tried barely, barely, I didn't really give much effort into like, "Oh, do I smell? Do I smell?" So, like, for example, my sophomore year, like, my friends would straight up tell me, "Yeah, you kinda smell a little bit," and that was nice because, I trust them, and it's better than going up to strangers, or
Right.
people who are reacting to you. That's the last thing you wanna do. Um, so yeah, like I was able to trust them. Um, my junior year, I would say, um, oh, sorry, what was the question again? I was about to say something, but I want to stay
Yeah,
on topic.
I was just saying like within your high school period, were you still able to have a relationship with friends and stuff?
Oh yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
were you able to ask them these types of things? But you already answered like during the sophomore year, they told you smelled a little bit.
So yeah,
Were you able to just
I was I was fairly popular in high school because of my sports background. And so, like, I guess my main sport was football, even though I played basketball. I was able to make plenty of friends, plenty of acquaintances, and it didn't seem like it really affected my social life. And especially
Hmm.
my junior year, that's when I first started getting into trying to date, talk to girls a little bit more and things like that. And it didn't seem to have an effect. I was able to date pretty well, and I was able to like hang out pretty often, and nothing drastic was happening. So that's why I feel like my scent was significantly lower. And like I said, it may be because I wasn't focused on it and I wasn't really all anxious about me smelling or anything like that.
Yeah, man. I'm just listening to you. I'm thinking to myself, man, my stories in high school was completely different. It felt like it got worse after junior year and then in the senior year. It's like after like senior year is sort of like known for being the smelly guy, at least in my perspective. And I never was like a
Mm.
basketball guy, but I also played football. But the high school that I was in, it didn't really have football, so I had to go to my home school. But that's beside the point. Going back to you, um, you said that during your freshman year in oh, are you good?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
Oh, because it closed out for a second.
Yeah, that's fine.
Um, well, I was saying that within your freshman year in college, you said it got worse. Did you move out of state, or did you like where? How did it get? In your opinion, what do you think caused it to become worse?
That's a good question because, like, okay, I'll say this: I'm from the South. Like I said, I moved up here to the Midwest my sophomore year, which is funny because in the South I didn't have no reactions, no problems, nothing. So I don't know why I just started to experience something like this in the Midwest my sophomore year. Maybe I was smelling in like my freshman year in a different state, but I just didn't notice it.
Hmm.
But
Oh, so you went to
yeah,
two
I
different
don't know.
colleges.
Oh, no, like ninth grade year, like my high school. Like, okay, so like I moved up
Oh,
here to the Midwest my sophomore year of high school. That's when I
okay.
had my first reaction. I am now to this day, I'm in my last year of college. So it's been some time. It's been like 6, 7 years. But um, yeah, I'm not I'm still in the Midwest. Ever since I moved up here, I've stayed up here.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
interesting. So once you moved up into the Midwest and went to that high school or went to the high school in Midwest, that's when you
yeah,
possibly started
that,
having a difference in people
yeah.
reacting to you?
That's exactly what happened. Like I've never dealt with any of that in the South. And it's weird because in the South, it's the temperature is hotter and it is more humidity. But in the Midwest, like that's when I started to notice like, oh, maybe I have a problem. And maybe that has to do with my maturity. That could be a factor too, but I don't really get this condition at all. It's pretty tricky, dude. It's a tough one to deal with. I don't know.
Another another thing I wanted to say is that I know that within a lot of people's experiences, they would say that it happened during like when they got into puberty or if they took some antibiotics because they had some type of infection, or I've heard stories where some people took, drugs or something like that, or drank too much alcohol. Do you feel like there were things within your sophomore year where some of those things applied? Maybe you had some type of, I don't know, a bad infection or something like that, or you
So
partied too hard, or you drank, just
So
drank.
here's the thing, like I'm not like I've never smoked in my life. So smoking has nothing to do with this. Absolutely nothing. I didn't even start drinking till I turned 21 and I tried it 3 times and it just messes with my stomach so bad. Like I just get nauseous real quick. And maybe that's cuz I'm a lightweight, I don't know. But it's just not for me. Um I don't really know what exactly I don't know. I just feel like um it's kind of hard to explain. But I know, like, I did have a problem in high school. Like, I had acne. I didn't have like super bad acne, but the typical solution and prescriptions for that is antibiotics. So I've been on different types of antibiotics, whether that's topical, whether that's pill form or whatever. Um, and they all did their part, but they never really got rid of my acne completely. Right now, my acne is not very bad at all. It's like it's mild, I'd say. But so I guess you could say I was on a lot of antibiotics, and maybe that was the cause, because I don't believe I took my first course of antibiotics for acne until my sophomore year. So it's very possible that the antibiotics could be responsible for that.
Hmm, that's interesting. Because that's like a common thing I always hear. It's always like either puberty, someone being on heavy antibiotics, someone using heavy drugs, which triggered this thing, and now they have this obnoxious smell that they can't detect. Um, but going to your college years, you said like during your freshman college year, it got worse because just junior year, senior year within high school, it wasn't as bad. But once you went to college, the odor, I don't know, came back or became more
It got
intense.
worse. It got worse. And in fact, I don't remember what year it was in college. Maybe it was my freshman year. Could have been my freshman or sophomore year. I don't remember, but I went to see a doctor about it. And I know how everyone in this community says, like, oh, doctors can't smell you. Well, this doctor could smell me. This first doctor that I went to, like, he was putting his, like, I knew I smelled, and I was sweating just from anxiety. Like I said, I have hyperhidrosis and I sweat easily. And I remember I was kind of nervous because I was like, dude, I don't know what's going on with me. And at that time, I hadn't really. I was a virgin at that time, and this comes into play because when I went to the doctors, he didn't know what was wrong, and I could tell he could smell. Like, he was making it very obvious. He wasn't trying to be rude about it, but he was acting as if it was pretty bad. And he kept thinking I had some sort of STD. I'm like, no, I've never, gotten. At that point in time, I hadn't really. I had like oral, but I hadn't really, gone all the way with it. And I was like, no, I don't think it's that. And I kept telling him, I was like, I think it has to do something with a bacterial infection and somewhere inside me. I don't know what it was, but I kept begging him. Well, not begging him, but I was like, hey, man, can you just give me some sort of antibiotics? I really want to see if this does something. And then I don't remember the name of this antibiotic, but it started with a Z. It started with a Z, and it was a 10-day course. It was very strong. I I swear to you, after the second day that I took it, no smell at all. I remember I had a sour, like spicier smell, especially from like the lower region, so like my groin area or like below.
Are you speaking right now? Can't hear you. Maybe I should put chat. I can't hear you. Elijah, can you hear me? Hmm. Can you read my messages? Maybe I should email him because I don't know. I cannot hear you if you can hear me, Elijah. Uh-oh. So Elijah's not responding. All right, and it's closed down. Well, while we're waiting for Elijah to come back on, how is everybody's day? Let's see. Let's see if he responds. Hmm. 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 Don't know. Okay.
Yeah, sorry about. I don't know what happened there.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I wasn't able to hear you for like a minute straight. And could
Oh.
you hear me when I was asking if you can hear me?
I just remember the last thing I said before it cut out was I went to the doctor and
Hmm.
he could smell me, and then that's when it cut out.
Oh yeah, you said you had like a spicy sour smell or
Yeah, yeah.
something.
So I took the medicine that he gave me. It was an antibiotic. Started with the Z. It was a 10-day course. Very strong stuff. And I remember after the second or third day, no matter if I was smelling like, or not smelling, no matter if I was sweating a lot, like I wouldn't smell at all. You know, I just wouldn't smell at all. Um, and I was like, oh, this is great. You know, whatever I had was a bacterial infection, and everything's going to be good. And I finished the 10-day course, and everything was all nice. And then a week after I stopped taking that, that's when the smell came back. So what that tells me is that this has to do something with bacteria within the body. And that's what led me to believe that it could be SIBO related. I mean, I have a history of having like belching issues, like just burping for no reason or just like gas. Now, certain foods will make stuff like that way worse, but I've just noticed, looking back on it and after doing so much research about TMAU and SIBO, and it just seems like SIBO seems to be something that I have.
Hmm. Well, isn't there like some type of diet for SIBO? And have you tried that? And did you see any success with it?
I did look into, I think it's called like a low
Oh,
food map,
FODMAP or food map? Yeah.
something like that. Yeah. And I, I was looking into it and I loosely was eating some of the food from there and I didn't really notice much of a difference. Another thing I want to mention is that the supplements that I'm taking on a daily basis is chlorophyll. Now I saw like on your latest video, you were taking something called body mint or something like
Yeah,
that.
body mint. Yeah.
And here's the thing, like with the chlorophyll tablets and body mint, they are the exact same thing. I
Yeah.
looked on the back of the label and I'm like, okay, because I was about to buy body mint myself. I was like, you know what, I have nothing to lose. Let's just give it a shot. But I know I'd have to order it online because there aren't like any stores here locally that I can just drive to and pick it up. But there was the chlorophyll pill, so I ended up just going with that. But I haven't really noticed much of a difference with the chlorophyll tablets.
With me, it's so funny you're saying this because it's like back in the day when I was in high school, it was so hard to find chlorophyll. It was like only just a couple of people that were able that actually made bottles of chlorophyll, liquid chlorophyll. So it's so funny you're talking about this now when it's like more available, but still like within certain areas, it's still probably scarce. But yeah, for chlorophyll or liquid chlorophyll, I've noticed when you do like or triple the dosage, you start to see something. So it's always recommended to take like 1 tablespoon. So if you take 3 tablespoons a day, you'll still be a difference. However, the problem is like if you take 3 tablespoons a day, you're only gonna the bottle's gonna be like you're only gonna have the bottle for like 4 to 5 days, you
Yeah.
know. So and I don't think it's going to completely eliminate it. Maybe it'll drop the odor down to 30% or so. You know what I'm saying? So I do feel that there is something there. But yeah, mainly the main thing is diet. The main thing is diet. Remove all the triggering foods. Typical triggering foods usually has to do with sugary stuff, um,
Yeah, I was gonna say,
fried food, stuff like
I,
that.
I noticed like my odor and like my acne flare ups come from sugar. I remember I cut sugar out completely for like a whole week. This was recently too, like a couple weeks ago. I was like, why am I like I just want to know like if sugar has a huge role in it and I just cut it out completely. I mean, I had a little here and there, but it wasn't like unnatural. It was like from like bananas or something like that. That's where I
Right.
get my sugar from. And I noticed like there was a reduction in my acne, and I feel like there was a reduction in smell as well. And I do, like you said, I think diet is huge. I really think diet is huge because for the longest time, dude, I thought a lot of this odor stuff was skin surface. I was skin surface. You know what I mean? So like I would do a lot of research and I see a lot of forums on Reddit and stuff. They say, oh, it has to do with the bacteria on your skin. Oh, it has to do with what deodorant you're applying to your skin. Everything was skin, skin, skin. So I was like, maybe I'm not scrubbing hard enough. Maybe I'm using the wrong soap, et cetera, et cetera. Never did I once think until recently that it can be deeper than that, you know?
You're probably looking at like the regular subreddits on body odor, because the regular subreddits on body odor, you're going to talk to typical people who just have, just a little bit of stench underneath their arm. They're not having like some invisible odor that they cannot detect. So of course, if you go to those regular body odor type of forums, yeah, they're going to talk about, yeah, just put apple cider vinegar underneath your arms, or
Yeah.
I
Oh,
heard so many different types.
tried that. I've tried all that stuff, man. Even baking soda don't really work. Baking soda makes me smell worse.
Really.
Yeah.
Baking soda, for me, baking soda actually does work if you put a lot of baking soda, but the thing is, if you put too much, it's going to smell like an ocean. It's going to smell salty, and it's also going to like burn your skin. I know if you put too much like baking, well, at least for me, when I put too much baking soda underneath my arms, it actually burns. But it is technically effective. It depends on how much you put in, but I don't know. Um, what I was gonna say, yeah, but that's the thing too. That's very interesting. When I was in high school and early college, I sort of thought it was a skin thing, or I thought it was a sweating thing. I thought it was a sweating thing. I just noticed that whenever I sweat the most, I get more reactions. So my conclusion was, okay, I need to stop sweating. So what I tried to do was I tried to get some type of medication to prevent myself from sweating. And I did. I actually successfully got some type of medication that was from a dermatologist in my sophomore year in college. But the thing is, it didn't change anything. I was super dehydrated. Like, this medication was so strong that I was super dehydrated. Even if I drank like 4 glasses of water, my mouth was completely dry, and I was super constipated. And nonetheless, I still got bad reactions, which then once I realized that, like, okay, I guess it's not sweating, then it must be something internal. But yeah, I guess, for everybody, at first you're just going to think it's just the typical things. Oh, I just need to wear more. I just need to wear more deodorant. I just need to put on more perfume. But then you realize that's not doing it. And then you're like, okay, maybe it's something more internal. So I don't know. I just found what you're saying interesting.
Real quick, I was gonna say with the hyperhidrosis thing, like my doctor also said the same thing. She's like, well, from what you're telling me, like when you're sweating, the odor is worse. I mean, that's even with normal people. Normal people smell worse when they're sweating. And she's like, well, my logic is to stop the sweating completely. I'm like, oh, okay. So she gave me this thing called dry sol. It's like an antiperspirant applicant you put on at night. You let it dry, and then in the morning you just wash it off, and then you put on your deodorant after. They say not to put on deodorant because it can cause irritation in some people, but I would anyways. And that actually worked for a little bit. But I feel like my body kind of adapted to that. I feel like my body kind of just found a way around it, because now I wear it once in a while, especially in the summers though, because the summers get.
That's just only for armpits, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's supposed to be for armpits and like the palm of your hands, but I only put it on my armpit, and yeah, like I mean, that stuff is super strong, but it would help a little bit, but then after a while, it just kind of didn't work anymore.
Bro, just talking to you is giving me so much flashbacks back in high school. Like, every little thing you're saying just give me flashbacks. Like dry salt, I remember that. And
Yeah,
I had so many different type of those dry salts or things of that were supposed to have some chemical that had a stronger chemical that will block the antiperspirant, and I would put it underneath my arms. I put it underneath my butt because I was sweating underneath my butt, and it was like it. I guess it was sort of dry, but nonetheless, I would still get reactions. And I would tell my mother about it, and she would try to order me some a stronger one. And I'd use it, but it didn't do anything. I would still get reaction from people. So I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
But yeah, going back to you. So Yeah, that's when you figured. So you said during your sophomore year in college, you started to realize, okay, this might be something internal. What was your next step after that?
I'll be honest, like I was loosely dedicated to figuring it out, and then I did end up coming upon, like I said, like everything I was looking up was saying skin surface, like it has nothing to do with inside your body. And one I guess one recommendation I saw was apple cider vinegar. And like I said, like I would have smell from like my pit area and like my lower region. Um, but I feel like the lower region was worse than the pit area. And they were almost like just like I feel like there were two different smells. And maybe that's because like on your armpits you put on deodorant, so the smell is not really the true smell that it comes out to be. Maybe it mixes with the odor and produces a just a different weird smell. But I remember I was using apple cider vinegar. I'd apply that to my lower region before I'd go in the shower. Then I wash it off and just go on about my day. And that reduced it a little bit. That reduced it a little bit. And I kind of just used that as a crutch for the year for a couple years later, and just kind of just was doing that. But I don't know. I never really like I tried it on my underarms and it didn't really mix well with the deodorant because apple cider vinegar is very strong, and then deodorant has its own smell, and then if you got a body odor issue, like it can get messy. But yeah, I would even to this day, if I know I'm going to be sweating a lot, I will apply like apple cider vinegar down there, and that actually helps a little bit. It doesn't get rid of it completely, but it will hold it off for some time.
You said, I think you said within when we were communicating through email, you said you can smell yourself 70% of the time.
Yeah, now I can. Like before, I couldn't smell myself. Like when I told you about the story about that those two girls behind me talking about how,
In high school, yeah.
yeah, I could not smell myself at that time. Nowadays, I can smell myself. Like if I were to like, especially at especially if I come home from like work or something, like work can be stressful, and stuff like that. Like it's mostly if I were to like take my clothes off, shower, go to bed, and in the morning, if I were to smell my clothes, that's how I can smell myself. Sometimes I can smell myself like it's honestly just so random. Like I could be in my room and maybe like I turn around real quick to go grab something, and then I catch a whiff of like a certain odor. I'm like, was that me or was that something else? Like it's so strange, dude. Like I'm not making this up at all.
No, everything you're saying I've heard before or
Yeah,
I've
it's
experienced.
crazy, dude. And it makes you I mean, there's a point in time where I was like, dude, am I actually like crazy? Because some people like I'd ask and they say, oh no, you don't smell. But then like 5 minutes later, I'm getting reactions from people. So like I was like, dude, maybe I'm a little paranoid, a little too paranoid, and I'm just I overthinking everything. But yeah, I kind of yeah that's what I got to say about that.
Bro, when I was in college, I was super paranoid
Oh
because
yeah.
this is a time where I didn't have there was very barely any type of information online about this stuff, and it would just be the typical things of just telling you to brush your teeth and put on more deodorant. So I
Hmm.
was super paranoid to the point I'm like, man, I don't understand what's going on, and I don't know if you with in your college like you live close to it or you have an apartment or what's it called a dorm or anything like that, but I lived in a dorm and I had to share a room with somebody, and it was pretty bad times, pretty stressful and annoying times. Um, I know you said that you go to work. I'm curious if your coworkers ever made any comments about
Oh
your.
yeah, dude. Oh yeah. So I work in a supermarket, a local supermarket here, and I'm a cashier. And I
Mm,
remember, by the way, I remember you saying like you would think cashiers would be immune to like scents. Now I'm a cashier, so I know all about this. Like, of course, you have your smelly customers that come through, and then you got the ones that just smell like straight weed, and then you got the ones that put on a lot, too much perfume and stuff. Now, the reason I found your channel was because just after, just shortly after the whole lockdown situation across the country, I ended up getting like I was sick. I ended up getting sick. I don't know. I don't think I had coronavirus, but I was pretty sick, dude, and I had a lot of the same symptoms. And so I was out of work for like a couple weeks.
Wow.
And yeah, it was that bad, dude. I was in bad shape. And then I ended up coming back, and I realized my reactions were worse than usual, and they were getting bad too. And I started doing a lot of I don't even know why. Like, I didn't change anything about myself. Maybe my sickness weakened my immune system, therefore, that bad bacteria was able to thrive more. I have no idea. But then I remember I found your channel, and I was like, oh my God, so I'm not the only one. I was so happy when I found your channel, dude. And I found that there's a whole community here. And then I found two other channels from your channel. You interviewed them both. There was this guy.
Yeah, the gut. Oh,
Yeah, the Gut War. Yeah, he was one. And then the guy from Spain traveled.
cure my trimethylene. You
Yeah.
should also subscribe to Daniel T. Minsa. He's actually doing some stuff too.
I've talked to him. Oh, I've talked to him through email. He was trying to get me on an interview, but things just didn't work out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Shout out to Daniel.
Well, I was trying to get an interview with you, but I remember like at that time you didn't respond. I was like, I'll try Daniel, but then he lives like on the other side of the world, and so the hours just were tough for my schedule and his schedule. So, I mean, I'd be willing to get an interview, but yeah, I ended up finding you guys' channel, and I tried the advice from Josh the Gut War. I did the whole kefir thing, dude. That made my smell like 10 times worse, dude. And I guess that's a pretty common thing. Like, the reactions at work were bad. Like, people would move a whole register away. Like, if there was a register right behind me, they would literally take their drawer and move somewhere else. Like, it was that bad. And people, we all have to wear masks. I remember this. And now a lot of the reactions are just so dramatic. They're so dramatic. But I mean, I guess I just smell like straight ass. But there's one time where and this was like embarrassing to me. This really hit me. I remember I was just chilling there. There's a space in between me and the next cashier, and there's a space in between me and the next cashier behind me, both front and back. And my supervisor, she was just looking at everyone, and everyone was looking at her. And she was like, if it gets bad, you can go somewhere else in the store. And I'm like, she's got to be talking about my odor. She's got to be talking about my odor. I was just like, God, dude, that one really hurt. I was like, damn, dude, it must.
What was your relationship with her before she made that comment? And
No,
what is your what was before, I guess, the odor thing, or before you were sick? I'm assuming that you still had comments or people reacting to you.
Yeah.
Did you get along with the coworkers within the supermarket?
Yeah, just fine. Like, I knew I had I knew I smelled a little bit more than everyone else. And at that time I just accepted had some sort of, and this could be wrong, but I just at that time accepted I had some genetics that made me a little bit smellier than the average person. And, people, I'd get reactions here and there, but no, they weren't like this, dude. And she never reacted to me like that either. I remember there's one other girl who I worked with. She's so dramatic. She's really so with anything. And we all had to wear masks, and she had we have the option of wearing like a cloth mask and like a regular doctor's mask, like the blue and white ones. And she had a regular mask on, like the blue and white one on. And I remember she went in the office and she yells like, "It's horrible." We have a little front office right by the registers. I was like, yeah. She must be talking about me. And I was just acting like I didn't know what the hell was going on. And then I remember she came back out a little bit later, and she had a different mask on. She had a thicker mask on. And a little bit later, she went back inside, and I didn't hear what was going on because my register was a couple registers too far away from the door. And when she was coming back out, she was talking really loud. She's like, "Oh, this one's not working. I don't know what to do." I'm like, damn. And she put on her regular mask on again. So
I want to ask you a question. I don't know. This is sort of random, but do you feel like you get more reactions from women than men?
I think so. And here's the thing too. I think women are more sensitive to smells. I feel like they're more sensitive to pain. They're more sensitive to smell. They're more sensitive to a lot of things. Guys also, I feel like, are, not to say women are not mature, but I feel like they're just more mature, and they're like tough it out kind of. You know what I mean? Like, they're kind of like, yeah, we know this dude smells, but we're not going to sit here and act like a bunch of drama queens and make a big scene about it, you know. That's just my experience, but I know that the guy coworkers, they didn't really do too much. I know that we do have one coworker. He's a dude, but I don't know if this has anything to do with it, but he's a lot more feminine, and he's not straight, but he's very dramatic too. And I remember he was reacting to me pretty badly, but um, I don't know. I don't know. I feel like
Hmm.
women react more though.
Now that you mentioned that way, maybe it's not really. Maybe they both smell it the same way, but based on how masculine or feminine they are, they're going to react in a different way,
I think so
personality
too.
wise, maybe.
Yeah, that's possible.
Um, but so I was going to ask you. No, I already asked you about the diet thing.
Yeah,
How long have you been doing the diet? And you're saying you're trying to do FODMAP, or you're doing a loose version of FODMAP?
I'm doing a loose version. What I'm trying to mostly do is stick to a low choline diet. That's what I'm doing. And I know, like, just through trial and error, the foods not to eat for I guess the foods for me to avoid are like sugary, just like, you know, your donuts and bakery food like that. Just avoid all that. Avoid apples. Apples for some reason make me smell bad. And I when I was doing my research on the low food or FODMAP, whatever that's called, apples was one of the foods to
Yeah.
avoid. Um, bread also is something that makes me smell worse. Eggs don't make me smell worse, I feel like, but if I eat a lot of cheese or I don't even like milk in the first place, but milk, God, whenever I used to have like cereal with milk, that would make me so bloated, dude, like really bad. And so I'm assuming with bloatedness, I'd probably smell worse too. So I just try to stay away from dairy unless it's eggs.
Yeah, for some reason with milk, like whenever I would drink too much milk, I noticed that my nostril, I don't know, like I get extra mucus in my nostrils.
Yeah.
It'd be harder to breathe. So I just stay away from milk. It's like everybody says the same thing. It's always milk. It's always somewhat sugary stuff or ultra processed foods. But I don't know. I'm still questioning with about meat because the more I'm starting to think about it, the more I start to feel that most of us don't really have TMAU. Most of us
Same.
have something like that. And what you're saying is, something very common. You're hitting all the patterns.
Yeah.
um, it's, it's always milk. It's always dairy.
I feel like most of the community they think they have TMAU, and TMAU is so rare. Like this thing is super rare. Not saying it's impossible to get,
Yeah.
but SIBO is so much more common, and it's a lot. It's so overlooked, and I think a lot of people need to kind of take a step back and realize, hey, you know, maybe it's something like SIBO or maybe something like this. And SIBO is very treatable. I have yet to get a test because it's so damn expensive, and I'm still kind of doing my own I guess I'm doing my own research on it. I'm trying to see what foods still work for me and what don't before I get the test. But I mean, maybe you don't even need to get the test. Maybe you could just do do what foods work and what don't, and then just kind of roll with that. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like most people have SIBO instead of TMAU.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think it is some type of bacteria situation. And it's funny you're talking about FODMAP and stuff like that, because those are things I was trying out in my early 20s. After college, I did FODMAP for like a couple of weeks. And I noticed I got less reactions, but I was stupid enough to just stop doing it. Like there's so many situations where I would just stick to a diet and I would just stick to it for weeks, but it was really hard to just stay on it. But
Oh,
within those weeks, or at least within after like the second week, I would notice something. I would notice a difference of reactions, or there'll be less reactions. I there was a point in time when I was in college, I thought it had to do with alkalinity, like the alkaline diet. Oh, there's too much acidity in your food, so naturally I thought to myself, maybe it was just maybe I ate too much meat and cheeses and all the other stuff. If I just eat a lot of fruits and stuff, and I will alkaline and purify my body. And technically, after a couple of weeks, I did have uh, less reactions, but I think I don't know. I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm just like
Oh, you
completely
good? You
taking up your
good?
time. So I did want to ask you. So within your college experience, were you able to network or establish friends like you were able to do within high school?
Yeah. So I lived on two things I want to talk about. I want to talk about the whole dating life, and I want to talk about this thing I'm about to talk about. So, like, I did live on campus for a semester with a roommate. Now, this I never had any reactions from him. This is also weird, and I know I smelled that semester. Um, he never told me anything like, "Hey, something smells a little funny," or he never would rub his nose or anything like that. So I don't know what that was about, but I know he used to be in the military for some time, so maybe he's just one of those tough it out guys. Very possible. Um, the other thing is the whole dating life. So there was a point in time where I was dating around a lot, and this is when I wasn't really like caring about how much like I smelled. This was maybe when I was like 19, from 19 years old all the way to maybe last year. So I guess 19 to 22. Like I was dating a lot of girls, not didn't have any problems with girls. I was able to do a lot of things. And I'm one of those who's more about, the short term stuff, like hookup culture and stuff like that. So I had no problem with any of that. So that's another weird thing too. You would think when you're dating women, you're getting up close and personal with them. They could definitely smell you. In fact, I even had one girl tell me I smelled good at one time. I was so
Hmm.
confused. That made my day when I heard that, as you can imagine. But yeah, I just don't get it, dude, because like there's times when I'm getting reactions and there's times when I'm not. But yeah, I didn't have any trouble in college. And I guess my biggest enemies at the end of the day is myself, getting in my head too much. Because if I'm able to date all these women, I'm able to hang out in high school like I was all the time, I'm sure I can still do that. But if I'm
Hmm.
sitting over here being self conscious and, worrying about reactions and how that's going to affect my day, I'm just going to end up just being a little hermit in in my house and whatever. So, you know.
Hmm. Very interesting. And you're dating the women within your campus.
It ranges so like I'm not on campus anymore. I was on campus, but because of the whole lockdown situation, I'm at home with my parents saving money. I would, I'm dating girls here in my city and girls at nearby cities, and oftentimes we'll just chill in my car a lot of the time. That's when you're up close and personal with someone. You can really smell someone in their car, and
Yeah.
I'm smart about it too. Like I have car scents in my car. Oftentimes I roll the windows down. So I'm not trying to make it hella obvious if I do smell. I'm trying to, let some of that out if that even makes sense. But no, I'm able to just be normal in those situations. So
Wow.
it's weird. It's weird.
Hmm. Because I noticed, well, at least from my experience, after my sophomore year in college, I was known as a guy who smelled really bad.
Mm.
But within your experience, it was different.
I wasn't really known as the guy I mean, at my work, yes, I'm probably known as the guy that smells, but because I work, and by the way, I've been at that same job since my senior year of high school.
Wow.
That's been a while, and they've kind of just maybe it's because I have the quote unquote street cred over there, and they kind of just let me do whatever I want. Or I guess I got the experience or whatever. But yeah, yeah, yeah. So I lost track of what I was gonna say, but yeah, that's what I gotta say about that.
Well, from all the things that you've tried over the past couple of years, what would you say are the top five things that worked for you or
Ooh,
that you saw results, and top five things that you definitely know don't do anything?
oh, I know the best thing that's worked for me to this day is apple cider vinegar for if I know I'm going to be sweating. And like, take that with a grain of salt. That's no cure by any means. But for me personally, it holds off the smell for quite some time. Another thing that's worked, I do feel like chlorophyll, when I'm drinking liquid chlorophyll, that's more effective than the pill. And maybe that's because I drink a lot of water, and every single time I fill up my water bottle, I'm putting more chlorophyll in there. So maybe,
Hmm.
like what you said, that has more dosage than just the pill itself. I feel like that helps because there's one point in time when I was drinking that all the time. After, I think it was after like 2.5 weeks, my smell did change to a less offensive smell. It was more of like almost like a, not like a chlorine smell, but somewhat similar. It's hard to explain, but it was not offensive is the point. I would much rather smell like that than something offensive. Um, I would say that did some wonders, and the dry salt for some time. I noticed that dry salt still works a little bit, because you're keeping yourself from sweating. But um, I would say dry salt is pretty decent. The three worst, oh man, baking soda. Baking soda was horrible for me. Lemons also didn't work. So that's two things. The last thing, mm, there was also one time when I got this. It's like a baby powder, but for men. It's like you apply to whatever areas get damp on you, and it cools
Yeah.
off. And this one was I think, Gold Bond powder or something like that. That stuff did not work for me at all. That just made whatever that scent was from that baby powder or that
Smells
Gold
weird.
Bond powder. It mixed with my odor and just made it 10 times worse. I remember I went to a concert. This is going a little off topic, but I went to a concert and I used that for the first time. Oh my God, I got some bad reactions. Bad reactions. Indoor concert.
Yeah, I used to use powder too, and I put it on my groin and stuff, and it just smells weird. I don't know if it like it intensifies the original nasty odor, but yeah, it just doesn't smell good, so I stopped using it. Uh, but I know you told me a little bit that like you're about to graduate, possibly graduate, and you're possibly going to be like a school teacher, and that's very interesting because that's a very you already have a job that's pretty social as a cashier, and now you have to do I don't know if it's elementary school that you're possibly going to go into, and when you said it, it reminded me of this news story that happened years ago where there was a blonde white woman who was a school teacher as well, and she had TMAU. She definitely had TMAU, and she would get comments from the school kids saying that that she smelled like fish and so on
Yeah.
and so forth. So when you said that, it reminded me of that story that ABC did like years ago in the 2000s. Um, so I wanted to ask you like I don't know. I want to know what you think is going to happen
See,
if I'm
so
going to get a job.
first of all, I didn't know about that story. That's interesting, and I kind of want to look that up as soon as the interview's over. But that's the thing too. Along this whole journey of TMAU or SIBO, whatever I have, I've noticed kids. I thought at first, kids would be the ones that wouldn't be the problem. They would kind of just, you know, go about their day. But yeah, I noticed that they're the ones that are so just,
Honest.
yeah, they're so transparent. They have no filter at all. And so now that I'm already going to school for elementary education, it's already kind of too late at this point. I'm gonna just keep taking the courses, get my degree, and get on with it. But it makes me wonder how life as a teacher is going to be because you're in an enclosed classroom all the time and you're with kids who have no filter. I mean, and here's another thing too. Um, as a teacher, you have to do these things called practicums. It's like job shadowing. You sit in an actual classroom and you kind of just help the teacher out, or you just
Like an
observe.
assistant.
Oh my God, I had these really bad reactions like a year ago. I went to this one school and it was a middle school. Man, these middle school, as you can imagine, is probably the worst to be around if you have this kind of problem. And these kids were just, oh my God, it was a mess. But yeah, recently I had a practicum this past semester, and the kid behind me, I remember he was plugging his nose, well, not plugging his nose, he had his shirt over his nose, I'm like, oh God, is it happening again? And I'm not trying to get all anxious about it, but that's pretty much the only reaction I had, was that one kid would plug his nose every so often. But yeah, no, I wonder how it's gonna be. But because of that, and I want to be smart about this, I've been doing this thing called, well, language learning. I've been learning different languages because, as a backup plan, in case this thing doesn't work out with teaching due to my condition or whatever reason, I want to have a fallback, and I would love to teach languages online. Teaching English online is really not a bad profession, especially if you're multilingual. I mean, there's a lot of people that want to learn English. It's very
Yeah.
valuable language. So I've been really doing that for the past 9 months. I've learned Spanish to an intermediate level, and now this is a random language, but I'm doing Russian. I just love how Russian sounds, and this language is hard as hell, but I plan on doing
That's
that for
interesting.
a couple years. Yeah, so that's my backup plan, and hopefully it all works out though.
I think there is some type of company that's like a remote company where you can work online and you teach kids, and I think you get paid like $15 an hour or something like that. I forgot the name of it, but I recall looking at those types of businesses that do that, where people. Matter of fact, I had a friend who was actually trying to teach Chinese kids English, but
Hmm.
she would get a check every month. It wasn't like a bi-weekly thing. So she just stopped doing it because she had to
Yeah.
wait a whole month for the check. And then I don't know, she just didn't like it. But yeah, I know you're busy and you have to go somewhere in 30 minutes. I wanted to ask you this before you went, or two things. One of the things I wanted to ask you is, I know for me that if I sweat out the odor before I actually go out to in public, I notice I have less reactions. Have you ever tried to do that, and have you seen any success?
I have. Well, here's the thing too. So I'm, like I said, I'm an athlete. I play a lot of ball, and I sweat all the time. Maybe because, those, how I told you about those 2 years in high school, my junior and senior year, I felt like the odor kind of just toned down a little bit. Maybe that's because I was very active, and I was doing a lot of working out in the mornings and things like that. Um, it's possible. I feel like it does a little bit if I sweat it out, shower, going about my day while eating healthy and while hydrating. I think it does. Um, but I can't say for sure. It's not drastic by any means. I'll say that.
That's true. And the last question I wanted to ask you is there like a, would you be okay if I shared your email address? So if anybody wants to
Oh
contact
yeah.
you, if they,
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
okay, cool. Oh yeah, I was always supposed to say this. I always say this. So let's say somebody listens to this thing and they identify with a lot of what you said. Is there any words of insight you would like to give to that person, or final thoughts?
I would say, for a lot of you who have TMAU, or think you have TMAU, you probably do have SIBO instead of TMAU. It's probably not something so rare. Also, I would try and do what you can and not worry about, reactions dictating your day and how that's going to go. So, yeah, just keep your head up, keep communicating and staying active with the community, and just try to stay positive.
All right. Well, I appreciate you, Elijah, for stopping in and doing an interview. I don't know what interview number this is, 33 or 34, but this is Friday Night Interview, and we are out of here, guys. See you later.
Yeah.